So you're,
Yeah, we are first.
that's just one person.
No, you look at the, and maybe certain business people that do that. As far as the. Oops. That's everything really. What's the name of it? That's there. Picture, but also it's town doing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to get started.
Yeah.
Troy, you guys are up with your chamber report.
Right, can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. Well, welcome to 2024, and welcome to any new of our council members. And for those who haven't met me, I'm Troy Campbell with the Leavenworth Chamber of Commerce. And what I do here at the study session historically has been just to give the council an update on kind of what's going on with the chamber. With all the events and things that we're putting on throughout the year, just keeping you guys informed of what we're doing, and some of the insights that we've been able to gather is, I think, somewhat helpful to the council. So I'm going to recap a little bit. I'm going to share screen, if that's okay. And going to recap Christmas Town and December for you guys. Overall, we had 24,900 people come into the fest hall for our time open of the 24th to the 24th. We had 6,000 daily entries into our online advent calendar. We gave out 4,000 midweek, or 4,000 shopping bags for our midweek promotion. We had about 650 volunteer hours through our Christmas Town Ambassador program in the fest hall. We did about 160 additional work hours this year, installing additional lights and adding to what we've done in the years past. We had 40 hours with Santa and Mrs. Claus throughout the month of December. We had 31 consecutive days open of the fest hall. That also means 31 consecutive days of the bathrooms being open at the fest hall and serviced daily by the chamber. We also had 28 porta potties, 26 gingerbread houses through our competition, 24 days of online event prizes, 12 actors to wear costumes, 6 carolers, 4 food booths, 3 holiday concert, 2 national network stories, and 1 MC, and a partridge in a pear tree. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But as you see, a lot of stuff going on through the month of December. And in addition to all of that, we were able to help the organizations listed there raise $14,200 for their nonprofits and their causes. And then we also had 2 concerts on the 22nd and 23rd with Manuela Horn and her Sleigh Bells performed at the fest hall for a ticketed event, and this raised $6,500 that we donated right to Upper Valley Men's Food Pantry here at the beginning of the year. So it was a fun event, and definitely something we will do next year, as it turned out really well, and is now obviously a proven way to raise some funds for a local cause. What that all means in far of the visitation is we kind of had the perfect storm for a lot of things. If you were a day tripper, this was a great year to come to Leavenworth. You can see the orange is 2023, the blue is last year, and the yellow is 2021. Interesting thing happened in the last half of December. In 2021, it was really great, and then there was a horrible storm, and it pretty much killed the traffic on the last week. Last year, the reverse happened. Horrible. After the third Saturday, horrible storm was cleared up before New Year's, and so the traffic escalated in downtown for the pedestrians. So you can see the yellow and the blue kind of flip-flop, but this year we had 2 weeks of no problems to cross the pass. So you had 2 weeks consistently of that traffic. So this is what a year with no traffic on the passes looks like compared to years where you've had major snow events. And we also had these last weeks, the first 2 weekends of December actually were the least busy weekends for pedestrian traffic, putting Black Friday weekend and then the third, fourth, and fifth Saturdays in the whole series of the weekends ended up being the biggest. This 164,000, that is the most we have ever counted in one day. So that is now the number one day of the year. And to kind of put it in perspective how busy December actually was, in 2023, I'm sorry, wrong note. 4 of the 6 weekends had no major storms and pass restrictions. So the 2 least busy weekends were the ones that actually had issues going on the passes. And then since the beginning of our counts in 2021, there have only been 14 days that the footfall counts went over 100,000 since July of 2021. Since November, we've added 13 additional days. So we're currently at 28 days of over 100,000, and those just happened within the last month. And if you remember, Thanksgiving weekend was beautiful, blue skies, sunny, gorgeous weather. And so that's why we see those increases on that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday there. This also means that out of the top 10 days we have recorded since July of 2021, 8 of them were just done in the last quarter of this year. And another thing, if you see at the very right end of this column, you'll see that 79,711. That was the footfall count on New Year's Day when pretty much nothing is open. That 79,000, that is consistent with a Saturday in August. So still a lot of people here. One of the things that was really helpful this year was having our food vendors out there for longer because and we actually curtailed a lot of the offerings, getting away from just offering booths that just do one type of thing, a novelty type food, because there's a lot of people we need to feed, especially large families. Large families that come 8 to 10 to 12 people, it's impossible for them to get a table in Leavenworth. There's just too many people for our restaurants to take at one time, typically during these busy times. So a lot of people, this is one of the only options, is being able to eat the food sold out in the park. So that was really helpful this year, having them stay a little bit longer, especially since seeing these pedestrian numbers, how they were really high the last 2 weeks of December. So my magic 8 ball would predict that we will have a big increase in lodging and retail tax for the month of December this year. And then finally, moving to the last, we don't rest. We still got Village of Lights going on, and this weekend is Winter Carnival, although with the past conditions looking the way they are, it may not have a ton of people, but we have the ice carving and fire dancers on the 13th, and then ice carvings, fire dancers, and then on the 14th, our firework celebration. So that is all I've got, unless I will turn my mic over to Kevin Reiki, who's there, and our board president, if he has something to add that I may have forgotten.
No, I think Troy summed it up perfectly. When there's no snow on the passes, the town is busier now that we're keeping track of footfalls. I don't think I personally remember it being as busy in town, especially since we closed the streets. You're full time too. So we had gigantic, Troy didn't necessarily mention, but we had a Wednesday. It was one of the top 15 days of the year as far as that Wednesday after Christmas. It was a gigantic football day. So yeah, I'm curious we're excited to see what the lodging and retail numbers come in for December. 3 months, it should be big. Right, Chantel?
Troy, I was going to ask you, so we had 28 days, it was 28 days over 100,000 folks. That was for the whole entire year, right?
So when I talk about 100,000, that's typically like a Saturday in August. We would the footfall count would be a total of about 72,000 footfalls. So that's sort of, to me, a baseline of like, that's a really good day, or that's a pretty good day. That's peak summer, a Saturday. But when we have 100, when it goes over 100,000, that's a bonkers day. That's a Saturday of Oktoberfest. That's a Saturday in December. And then when you start having Wednesdays hit those numbers, or start hitting those, then so that's what I'm talking about. Over 100,000 footfall counted day. There had only been 14 of those since July of 2021, and we doubled that in the fourth quarter. 13 of them since Thanksgiving, and 1 being the Saturday of Oktoberfest this year.
Okay, so that's, yeah, it's just kind of a measure that you can take as far as people in town.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have we hit, if I had this right, that we've hit 3 million tourists a year? Do we know that? Or is there a way to count that?
I think last year we were estimating about 2.9.
Okay. So basically 3 million a year tourists easily, I'd say, for 2024.
mm,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Troy, can you
Yes.
explain the footfall system? Explain how that works?
Yeah, there's an in count and an out count. And so a footfall is not individuals, but every time a passerby happens. So multiple person could be counted multiple times, but it gives you a measure of foot traffic because even if the person is walking back and forth, that person is walking back and forth and creating foot traffic. So that's what it's measuring. There's 5 cameras on Front Street that do a daily count. And so these are the totals of all the cameras. And this information can be extrapolated down to the hour, the day, the month, the year, the quarter, and run in different reports. In fact, I just provided the raw data to Selby so they could use it to help analyze some of the data they collected for parking in this past August to also look at the pedestrian patterns so that could match up to, I think, the parking patterns is kind of the idea. So so it can be used in a variety of different ways, but yeah, that's what these are. So for us, it gives a very clear indication of what kind of day. So once you get a year's worth of data, then you have your baselines of knowing, okay, this was a super busy day. What was the footfall? Okay, that's a good day. So that's kind of how we use it.
And we've been doing that system for a while, the footfall system.
Yes, the chamber installed the cameras, which are on private property in July of 2021.
Okay. And then the other thing about this was, do you have a sense about traffic issues, given all the people that were here? Or is that something?
There's an entire committee designed to discuss that. And in fact, they're going to be meeting as a post-op, but it includes the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, Department of Transportation, the city, the county. And we also sit in on that. And that's where we discuss those issues of traffic and what did work and what didn't work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll just make one last quick comment that Troy won't toot his horn, so I will for him. This football stuff is all thank you to Troy Campbell and his knowledge of how to do stuff like this. Because before we've always just guessed, and it's always been town was busy and we have to wait 3 months to see what the retail numbers are. But this technology of these cameras that can track, it's not an exact number of how many people, but it, like you said, it's a relative thing that we can now use as a gauge for how many people were in town. And now that we have 3 years of data, it's really interesting.
Are these different than the live cameras?
No.
Are they separate? Different. This is different.
Yeah. This technology is used in Times Square and all throughout the country for monitoring footfalls and traffic in busy municipalities. So it's a different technology.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
It has always bothered me though that, excuse me, you could count one person 10 times or 20 times or, rather than somehow it detects that that person's already been counted.
Well, Sharon, the solution would scare you even more because the solution would be facial detection. And recognition.
It's more invasive, yeah.
Right.
It just, I don't know,
I want to really have to in the future, we could probably, I'm sure there's people that do a study where they can take our data and say, all right, they could actually sit there and count and say 160,000 footfalls means
This many
80,000 people or something.
Oh,
Yeah, so we don't know that, but for now, it's just a relative thing to use.
so you said there were 5 cameras. Could each camera count the same person? So.
Yeah, the cameras don't care about individual people. It's counting every time a body passes in front of it.
They count cars too.
And
So
that's
you know how many people on Front Street as well.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Troy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, moving on, we've got state auditor's exit interview. Cal.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, Council, I'm not there tonight. You can probably hear in my voice, I've been pretty sick for the last week. So I look forward to meeting all of you newer ones at our next meeting when I'm able to be present. Tonight, we have Jeremy Boner and Kathleen Lentz with us from the State Auditor's Office, and they're going to go ahead and proceed with their PowerPoint presentation. Jeremy, is that you taking off, or would you like to introduce yourselves first?
Well, my name is Jeremy, and I'll have Kathleen start it out. I'm going to try to share the screen right now just to make sure there's no technical difficulties, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. My name is Kathleen Lentz. I am with, we are obviously with the State Auditor's Office. We appreciate your time. I was the supervisor on your audit this year. And of course, with me is Jeremy. He was the audit lead. So he performed majority of the work on the city's audits this year. We appreciate and value the time for having us involved in your meeting today, and us to be able to have the opportunity to share the audit results. We also want to express whether you're new to the audit process or new to the process of hearing from us. We're just glad that you're able to hear directly from us, not just an email. But hearing directly from us, and you have the opportunity to ask any questions. Jeremy's going to walk us through the details here in just a moment. I want to express our appreciation for all that you do there in the city of Leavenworth. It was interesting to hear some of the stats that you guys were just giving. And Jeremy, of course, and I live here locally. Not directly in Leavenworth, but we live in the Wenatchee area. So we're part of the region, and of course get to personally partake of the enjoyment of the city of Leavenworth. So it's always great to hear what you guys are up to and how you guys are succeeding as well. Some of the results we're going to go through. Really, we want to just express what our office does. Whether you're new to this process or you've been through it, understanding audit results, of course, is important to the public. First, audits, really help build trust in government and your organization, letting your citizens know what you're up to. We are ultimately the window to the citizens of your operations. So our office, of course, you're required by statute to be audited, but our office, being the constitutional auditor of all public accounts, having that published audit report from us gives that transparent examination in that independent, third-party independent ability to come in and do those examinations. And then if the audit results happen to give the opportunity to improve effectiveness or efficiency, we do that through recommendations. So we actually, I'm happy to say, we do not have any recommendations to share with you. Everything looked very good this year, which is just really kudos to all that you're doing there in the city. We did have one exit recommendation that we have supplied to Chantel and her staff. It's really just a housekeeping item. It's really not anything that we plan to talk about tonight. I believe it's in your packet. If you do have any questions, you can, of course, let us know. But we believe it's a recommendation that management can address, but we bring it to everyone's attention so it doesn't become a larger matter. So with that, I'm going to turn the details over to Jeremy, and then I'll wrap things up at the end.
Thank you, Kathleen. So as Kathleen mentioned, there are actually two different kinds of audits that we perform this time. This covered The accountability audit is we also refer to as a general audit. We look at a lot of internal controls and processes during the planning steps. We identify those areas that we feel are most at risk, and then those are what we spend our time auditing on. The accountability audit period covers a 2-year period, so 21, all of 21, and then all of 22. And as you can see, the results in brief there, that blue section, it says in the selected areas, city operations complied in all material respects with applicable state laws, regulations, and its own policies, and provided adequate controls over the safeguarding of public resources. So that's what you want to hear. In the packet, there will be an audit report that identifies kind of some very similar language and talks about that result. As Kathleen mentioned, there is that exit recommendation that did stem from the accountability audit. It was not a financial recommendation. So if you are interested in knowing more about that, of course, I'm always around to be contacted. And then just pointing out, of course, as you understand, we can't audit every single area. That's just not feasible. So we do pick and choose and identify those that would be at highest risk in our opinion. The accountability audit results, specifically the areas we looked at payroll, gross wages, employee compensation, cash receipting, completeness of deposits of the pool specifically, parking contracts. We looked at the billing and collections. That was, of course, a rather large increase in 21-22. So there's always a risk when we see big numbers like that happening. Open public meetings, compliance with minutes, meetings, and executive session requirements. That's an area that comes in fairly standard. Same with financial condition. Those two kind of come in with all of our accountability audit results. Any questions on the accountability audit before I switch over to the financial?
I have one question. Can you go back to the page? Yeah.
Yep.
The one where it says cash receiving, completeness of deposits at the pool. Are you talking about the swimming pool or some other pool?
Oh, yes, it is in fact the swimming pool.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. We looked at that, and the recommendation is actually over that area. So if you do have your packet, you can kind of look at the details of that. And again, anytime you will have any questions, feel free.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Financial audit results. As you can see here, this was a 1 year. So we covered 2022, January through December. We issue 2 opinions on our cash basis entities, which City of Leavenworth is one. One says that you complied in all material respects with the regulatory basis of accounting, BARS, which is one of the things that our office does is maintain that regulatory basis. However, to allow you not to report on a full GAAP basis, we do have to identify that you don't. In our audit report, it states that we're not expecting to comply with a GAAP opinion. So there are those two dual opinions that happen, but that's been that way forever. That's nothing new. During our review, we look at internal controls only in how it relates to establishing financial statement balances and other areas. We don't specifically look at internal controls within the financial audit. However, if we identify any of them that were a problem, then we would have noted it here. And so with that, the report shows that we did not identify any of them using the language that had deficiencies or that we consider to be material weaknesses.
Jeremy?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yep.
Is that a typo in the first bullet under internal control and compliance?
It is.
It is actually a typo. Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Can
it
you
is.
clarify that?
Yes, we did not identify significant deficiencies, and we did not identify material weaknesses. Happy to report that we did not have any recommendations over the
Yeah,
financial reporting at all.
correct.
It was a very clean audit. So
Yeah,
thank you, Chantel, for pointing that. That is definitely a typo.
yeah. Thank you. That must be something in the template where that needed to be deleted or something added. Okay. Yeah, thank you for catching that. We're checking you one more time. So good job, Chantel.
We're testing you, Chantel, one last
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So
It's a dual process for internal control, yes?
There you go.
that is
There you go.
right. Yeah,
Exactly right.
good job, everybody. There is required communication. So again, keeping in line, there were no uncorrected misstatements and no material misstatements that were corrected by management during the audit. Similarly, we didn't identify any material misstatements, and no uncorrected misstatements have been identified, ignoring that first bullet point. And the other required communication, there is a standard area that we look at with all of our financial audits in the state, or most all of them. That's management override of controls. So we'll look at that and consider whether or not management's controls are in place to are sufficient to prevent like override that would lead to fraud or things of that nature. Federal grant compliance audit. Before I move on to this, any questions on the financial statement audit? Pretty straightforward. Federal grant compliance
now,
audit.
Chantel, you've got me looking for it, and it's in this one too. So it must be
Yeah.
it must be something wrong with the template. So
Right. That's why I was saying like I wouldn't have accidentally put that in there. So must be standard that I just skipped over and didn't read it. Okay, so federal grant compliance audit results. Again, same time period. This goes in conjunction with your financial statement. So we look at this and we have issued an unmodified opinion, and that is the best that you could want. It means that we aren't saying that our opinion is changed in any respect. We believe that you have complied in all material respects. So internal control, I'm not going to repeat the information. It's the same exact as it was with the financial statements. No problems with the internal controls as it relates to the federal grant compliance. The major program that we selected for audit, no surprise, you have the very large thing on the schedule of expensive federal awards, and that is the water and waste disposal systems. Makes up a vast majority of it, 81% of the total federal expenditures for 2022. And that's any questions on the federal side. Okay, with that, I'll throw this back over to Kathleen.
okay, in your packet, we did have audit costs estimated, and our original estimate. We don't see any modifications in that. The next audit, you are scheduled through communication with Chantel. We do understand that the city is going to need a financial and federal audit. So the federal compliance, as Jeremy kind of described before, for every year, every fiscal year, and for the city, that's a calendar year. For every year that you spend $750,000 in federal funds, that could be one grant, that could be multiple grants. But any federal funding over the $750,000 threshold requires the city to have a federal audit. A federal audit goes hand in hand with a financial audit as well. So we are scheduled to come back in later this year. Chantel, if you haven't heard from us by the time you file your annual report, the end of May, circle back around with me and we'll make sure that you're on the schedule for this summer, because that federal deadline is May. And of course, we've provided an audit estimate of those costs in your packet as well. So speaking of that reporting publication, we are, as we're wrapping this up, we are publishing your accountability audit report at this time. Probably will be released in the next week or two. However, we met the federal deadline with the financial and federal audit report, that was actually published back in September. So as we wrap things up, an audit survey, of course, is issued to our audit liaison, as well as, I believe, the mayor and any council members we had contact during the audit with. That survey can actually be forwarded to anyone for comment. It can be audit related. You can give feedback about anything that happened during the audit, or if there are resources and tools that our office can provide. We'd appreciate knowing about that. And Olympia always appreciates that feedback. They take it very seriously. And we just would like to thank everyone, Chantel in particular, for helping us complete the audit, and actually all your staff that was involved. And I'm gonna make a personal note. Lil, I want to say hi to Lil, who is actually married to my cousin Roy. So hi Lil. I noticed he was on the call. I didn't catch that earlier. But anyway, there might be a relation there. So
I had a
anyway,
quick question, Kathleen.
absolutely.
Did I hear you correctly state that there's the federal deadline that has to be completed by May?
No, the annual report deadline,
Okay.
your annual report filing by May. By the time you, by the time you file to make
Yes.
sure we're meeting your federal deadline of September, just circle back around with me about audit scheduling. We'll make sure you're on the schedule for the summer.
I think someone actually, Jeremy, maybe somebody already called me about scheduling. So, okay.
I verified that you were still requiring that you were above the 750. So when we're doing it, we have that pretty small window between the end of May and September to get all of those single audits in. So of course we prioritize those when we're scheduling. So that's why we needed to make sure that, yes, indeed, you still didn't need one.
Okay. And I did notice that you did not include accountability for 2023. No. Will that be a dual year, a biennial one then in 2025 for 23
Correct.
and 24?
Because
Okay.
your accountability audit is on a 2-year cycle. We will perform that in 2025 over fiscal years 23 and 24. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for us?
I guess, Kathleen, I was just gonna try and get a clarification. The term management override control or management control override, that's what's in Chantel's system or the city's financial system to prevent fraud. Is that basically the simple explanation?
Actually, what that is we examine that for every financial statement audit that we do. And that is us going through the financial preparation processes, or even some of the expenditure approval processes, and making sure that nothing is bypassed or overridden in normal processes, making sure that everything is approved, everything is reviewed. Okay. And we just have to examine that to make sure that something isn't, out of the ordinary that could potentially put you at risk of fraud or misreporting, or even at risk of material misstatements, for that matter. Happy to say that Chantel's been doing this a long time. She's got a great system. She's got a great staff, and that's why we have a clean audit with no recommendations for you guys.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Well, without any additional questions, I think that's all we have for you for today. And Chantel, we'll see you later this year.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you, Chantel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice work, Chantel.
Nice work.
All right, moving on. We have the committee assignments and then council rules, and I'll make a comment on the committee assignments, and then Selby will take over the council. So,
Yes.
all right, just on the committee assignments, I just want to note that you've got the current list of committee assignments in your packet here. But with the exception of, I want to just make note that I did have Travis and Shane are slotted into the PRSA, and that's because they're gonna have a meeting before we actually formally put them on. So I put out that word earlier, and so even though it just says that those are vacant, those have been filled. If you want to change, they're slotted in with the people that are still here, and as they were on the ad hoc committees, those are the ones that I assign. And so if you want to change, let me know. Otherwise, if you see one that's interesting, that you see a vacant and you're interested in that, let me know. And then we'll nail those down by the second meeting here in January. And then just real quickly on the city council committees, we're down to just two of those, economic development and finance. And finance is one that we'll meet this year with Chantel and work on the budget. So that's one that meets, both of these meet as needed. They're not we got rid of that regular monthly schedule, so they're meet as needed. Economic development, their primary task has been to work on the Leavenworth Fund and allocate those dollars. But moving forward, there might be other projects too that they would take on economic development, but the finance is working mainly with Chantel on the budget. So any other questions on committees?
Carl, I was gonna ask you about, there's that one committee that meets, it's kind of a broad task force on the river. The river study committee, whatever. I didn't see that, is that like,
I don't think it's a formal committee.
Yeah,
is that not considered?
it's not, it wasn't formed by us, and it wasn't, we just wanted representatives onto that, so we don't have an allotment or anything like that for that one, but
Okay, because
that one's driven by the county.
so I participated in that
Yeah.
the last 2 years. Can I just assume that?
You can assume that you can stay engaged with that, yeah.
Okay, great. Just want to check on that. Thanks.
I think I'm interested in that one too.
Yeah,
Can we just go?
As long as we don't get a quorum, we're
Oh,
fine.
okay.
So, and I don't see that being a problem. You were pretty much the only one, weren't you? From
Yeah, pretty much.
council?
Yeah, council. So,
Carl, would you like
Yeah,
an email for committees that we're interested in?
Yeah, you can just email me any of the
Need my
ones that you see
information.
that are vacant and if those of you, Ann or Zeke and then Clint, who's not here tonight, but if they want to change or, get off of one, just, all of those things, and if I still have a vacant, I'll start contacting you and seeing if you'd fill it, so. But give me your preferences from those to start with and give me a starting spot and then we'll take it from there. All right, and go ahead, Selby, on the
Sure.
next part.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. In your packet in tab D is our proposed changes to our council rules. I'll run through them with you quickly. You'll see a new section C, which specifies public comment via remote participation. Staff is recommending that we move away from Zoom meetings to Zoom webinar format. That's the way we've always done public meetings in every jurisdiction that I've worked in, aside from Leavenworth. The main reason for this is to eliminate the possibility of any Zoom bombing. If you do recall, there was an incident last year where a participant unmuted themselves, stated some profane things and then remuted themselves without apology. And we understand that this has happened in other jurisdictions as well. That was the reason why every town I've worked in, when they do remote participation, has done webinar. It's a little more work for us to manage, but not much more. And what this would do is if someone does want to participate, they would raise their hand. Andrea and I would see that. We'd promote them to panelist. We'd require that they have their first name and last name. Oftentimes people participate and we don't know who they are because they just put initials on their meeting. We would request that they turn on their video. because they can see us, we should be able to see them. But we can't require that because they may not have the technology to do so. And again, people can always participate via phone. So the webinar format still has the phone in component that our Zoom meeting currently does. So it costs a little bit more to upgrade the Zoom to the webinar format, but it's something that we would like to adopt.
Is that a whole different process to learn? No, or it's just like Zoom, but you're just.
So you've attended webinars and didn't even know you have.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Tech savvy shit.
Oh, so I thought it was a Zoom meeting,
You
but
probably saw the Zoom meeting, but your camera wasn't on. You didn't see yourself anywhere. You're just a participant. And then the presentation is being given to you.
I don't think I've ever done that.
No, okay.
But the health department was bombed twice.
Were that?
One early on,
Uh-huh.
really bad, and then the last one wasn't too long ago. But I can't remember. I think they just put it in another room or something.
And I know Link Transit also does the webinar format, and they also use the OWL. So you notice that we're using
Okay,
OWL
yeah.
this time. That gives our audience a little better view of who's speaking, because it's always been that camera in the back, and it just shows a pulled out view of the entire council, and you really can't see who's speaking. With the OWL, it has multiple cameras and it zooms in on you when you're speaking. So we're trialing that out for our first meeting, and we'll see how it goes. And then we'd like to move to webinar.
Sounds good.
Other things is.
Let me ask a quick question about the webinar. Does it require the moderator then to allow like the staff and council members who are attending via the webinar? You would have to allow us.
So if you were going to be participating at a council meeting remotely, you would be made a panelist and given a panelist invitation.
All right.
You know, we talked about this when we did the orientation. I have one thought about it, which is sometimes it's nice for the community to know, we don't have to see all the black screens or the faces, but it's nice for them to know how many other people are around on an issue.
Mhm.
And maybe if their friends who said they're going to be there have made it yet or whatever. And so that would be my one consideration, that the community might like to know that. And I'm not sure they can with this format.
I'm not sure you can either. I've participated on Zooms. Wait a minute, I say that. I've participated on Zooms and I've seen all the different people that are there.
Uh-huh.
But you still can't turn on your camera and you can't
Sure.
participate, but you can see who else is there. So we can look into that. I believe it's probably a setting within Zoom that we could turn on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We broke out section 5 to talk about advisory committees because everything was lumped in together as council or ad hoc. And we actually have a number of advisory committees, but they didn't have their own paragraph in here. Advisory committees include the Downtown Steering Committee, Parking Advisory Committee, and the New Housing Advisory Committee. Ad hoc committees are the temporary ones like the Osborne Playground Committee. I'll be putting together an Osborne Reuse Steering Committee soon. That'll be another ad hoc. So it'll live for a little while. When the project's done, the committee goes away. We talked about seating arrangement. So you guys are actually, you all came on board at the same time. We generally seat people by seniority, how long you've been on the council. And with you guys, you're now ranked by the number of votes you received, and we made sure that was codified in our rules. Another thing, we've had
you win by?
issues in the past where particular members just want to add things on to study session that take up a lot of time, but might not be something that the rest of the council wants to spend their time discussing. So we're adding in a provision that study session items can be added by the mayor or city staff and by council members, but at least 3 of you want to talk about it before we'll add it on to your next agenda. I put in something more specific about executive session in section, which is now 10. Rename the flag salute to the proper name, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And put in a way to excuse absences. So if you recall, when we put together the Code of Ethics and adopted that in August, by state law, no council member can miss three meetings without being excused. If you have 3 unexcused absences, you'll automatically be removed from the council. So that is in our Code of Ethics, but what we didn't have was a procedure to excuse an absence. So right now, this says, this is up for discussion, that in order for it to be excused, we'll add it to the consent agenda as one of the first items, as long as we know about it within 24 hours of advance. This is for your discussion. If you want to make tweaks to that, please let us know. We also talked about how many times, and we don't want to make the decision for you, but we've talked about restrictions on the number of times you could participate remotely. because we want to encourage face-to-face communication. So if you want to put in a maximum number of times a council member can participate in a given year remotely, we have a question mark there. We offer 3 times, but that's for your, these are all your rules. We're just offering suggested changes.
What section is that?
Yeah, I'm not following.
That was section 22.
22? Okay,
Section 20.
great.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So for instance, Clint can't attend tonight for personal reasons. He let me know end of last week that he wouldn't be able to attend. I let the mayor know, I let Andrea know. So we've added that to your agenda to excuse his absence.
Okay.
Are we assuming 22 sessions a year?
22 meetings a year, given that we usually cancel the second occurrence in August and the second occurrence in December.
Well, I might as well mention my situation now, which I talked to Andrea about. So, I can't really sit because of my undiagnosed thing that I have going on. And so I probably can't keep standing either. So for instance, today, I'm probably gonna have to go home and lie down after this part. I mean, I'm trying to hang in there, but I don't want to make myself worse. So it's kind of a medical emergency situation. It's not the way you've written it up yet, because it's 24 hours notice, but maybe think about that.
Yeah. We can add medical emergencies, right?
Mhm.
Those are those changes.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
On page 1, under B, second line from the bottom. Explain what changed the order of speakers to ensure that all who wish to comment are heard.
I can't speak to that because I didn't write that. That's in your existing rules.
So you don't know what it means? It sounds like if too many speakers are speaking, they're together. I mean, they're speaking about the same thing, that you're gonna not let all of them speak to let somebody else comment. I'm just wondering which one.
I can clarify that. It's kind of a run-on sentence, but the mayor or presiding officer. So what it's trying to say is the mayor or presiding officer may change the order of speakers to ensure that all who wish to comment are heard.
Does that mean that by changing the order, some won't be heard that were gonna be heard because they were in line?
No, Sharon, for example, when we've had a visitor come to our meeting and let's say they were the last person on the agenda, we've moved them up to be earlier in the meeting.
But everybody who wants to speak will be able to speak. No?
Yeah, I don't think there was any intention to eliminate the ability for people to speak.
I think that's
Can
got
that
to do
be
with, yeah,
printed better?
like folks in the audience, they'll all have a chance to speak. That doesn't eliminate that opportunity at all. It's just, if someone's got a timeline that's coming in, they got to show up sooner, and
We can adjust
we can
the,
adjust it so they can get them in, and then folks who are in the audience might speak later, but they're still gonna get a
Okay,
chance
just
to
as long
speak.
as everybody that wants to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, I just was worried about that.
Right. Good question.
sure, because that's what it says, sure, all who wish to comment are heard. That's the bottom line. And again, I thought we had put in here that the normal thing is 24 hours, but that it could be there are extraordinary circumstances or something. We talked about it, I know, in our.
We did discuss it. I didn't
Yeah.
make a change
Okay.
after because I did not make that change.
But I know we had discussed the very thing you're talking about, where you can't always give 24 hours if you're rushed off to the hospital, you know.
Should that say that in here?
Well,
Yeah.
that's what, yeah.
We're gonna make
Okay.
it.
Well, we can edit it, but we had discussed that.
And standing committee, you probably already said it. What does that mean? You got rid of advisory and moved it and put in standing. And so what was the purpose of that?
Where are you, Sharon?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on page 2,
Section
section
4.
4.
So, standing committees are the council only committees. Remember, there used to be 6. So those were
I
the,
mean, like public safety, or you're talking
yeah,
about those?
those 6. So those were the standing
Now
committees.
we
Of
have-
those, there are 2 left, economic development and
Okay.
finance.
Okay. So those are still there.
And then I broke out advisory committees.
And
Okay.
Because those are the
Yeah, the
advisory committees, are
advisory
committees that
is
include
separate.
council members, but include members of the community as well.
That just got a little crazy for me.
the advisory were what were called ad hoc, but they weren't truly ad hoc because they were standing, they were ongoing.
Right.
So that was parking and
By
And would you
definition-
talk about section, hopefully I'm not making you talk about something you already have. On the bottom of page 3, the last section.
Executive sessions?
No, dissenting opinions.
Oh, we didn't make any changes.
I guess I've never read this before.
these rules were in place. These are just modified. So all the black stuff was already there.
So you're just saying if you have it in your dissenting decision or your protest, that you have the right to enter. That it's showing that you oppose the action, because if you just abstain, you end up, your vote's a yes, right?
Yeah, so you're not really supposed to, well. What this is saying, Sharon, is that if you are voting against, you're voting against a motion, you can state to Andrea, I'd like the record to show that I'm voting against this for this reason.
Okay,
And then that would.
okay,
that would
I've
be
done that
reflected in the
before,
minutes.
so, yeah,
Comment.
okay. I get it. If I have anything more in here. My fingers to work. I just put on page 4, section 1, or is it section 12? They crossed out the red 1 and put a
Yep.
red 2, so it's section
Order of
12 or
business.
section 2.
Order of business?
Order of business. Where it said comments from the public on items not on the agenda. I thought, I was wondering, you should put and or correspondence from the public.
There's another section for correspondence.
So that's not on there at all then?
No, it's
No,
underneath
there's
it.
another.
Oh, no, I see it beneath it.
Yep.
Okay, I was
Now,
just trying to
these-
connect.
Not
the two.
every one of these categories gets added to every agenda.
Okay, and on section 14, it's now 14.
Yep.
What would that look like?
So if you voted for something
Mm-hmm.
and it passed, and then you went home and it gave you, you lost sleep over it and you felt you made the wrong decision. If you voted for it, but you feel like you've changed your mind, you can recall that at the next meeting to reconsider.
Really? Okay.
If you lost, you
Yeah.
cannot have it reconsidered.
I've never done that.
If you're.
You
part
can
of it.
only
If
be
you voted
a part of
against,
the
if you
voting
voted
for
against
it.
it, if you voted
Put
against
it in the
it
timeline.
Uh-huh.
and it passed, you can't bring it back.
Motion to reconsider.
It's only if you voted for it and.
And why would you bring it
Succeeding
back?
meeting.
You changed
Had a
it.
change of heart.
You changed it.
But it already passed.
It
Right.
did, but you
Okay.
can bring it back to
Okay.
another vote and change your vote.
Rescinding, but in a way.
You can move to reconsider.
Doesn't mean it's gonna make it, but you
Right.
can.
And on the page 5, section 1 with the 7 slashed out 8, it starts with beyond. Okay, we just talk about those. So any abstention is a yes vote.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, double check on that. Okay. If I had anything else there. Oh, at the very bottom of page 6. Is that supposed to be January 4th, 2024?
January 24th, 3rd, 2024, your next meeting.
24, okay, adopted by the
Oh.
council and signed by the mayor on the
On the 23rd of 2024. your next
24th,
meeting.
3rd. Okay, you're just, the 4 is out, the 23rd day of January 2024, okay.
Yeah.
It looked like the line was through both the 3 and the 4. It's just part of the work. Okay. I got it.
Great. Any other
That's it.
questions?
I just have a clear up on the abstain thing. So let's say there's 7 people, 1 person abstains, 3 vote against, 3 vote for. It passes because the person that abstains is counted as a yes vote. Is that right?
That's right.
Ah, okay.
That's my
Didn't know that.
understanding.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. We got the capital improvement project review.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome aboard new council members. I'm Lilith Vespier, Community Development Director. The update of the capital improvement plan is something we do every year. For the new members, I'm sorry, we tried to adopt this by December generally. I was running late last year and this year. And so it falls on your plate to consider adoption of it. It is a standing document that has been on the books for quite some time. Most of the projects are replaced every year, new timelines, or removed as they're completed. So there isn't a whole lot of change from last year. So I hope that helps you feel comfortable adopting it. It will also come back before you, either December of this year or early next year. You have a staff report in your packet, and I can share screen so that everybody can see that. There we are. The staff report is what was presented to the Planning Commission. Because this document resides in our comprehensive plan as a way of tying together the goals and visions of the comprehensive plan with the financial component of the city and all the projects we're proposing, it is an implementation tool for the comprehensive plan. That's why it resides there. And it does require the Planning Commission's review through a public hearing. In any case, the staff report was reviewed by the Planning Commission. There were no comments or much discussion on the document. The Planning Commission is recommending approval. There were, during some discussions, some minor suggestions of changes. We were able to make one of those changes, which was to the project list itself. There was a list of road projects, and it included several city streets, and some of them were just outdated, like 14th Street improvements have already taken place. So it wasn't a dollar value assigned to that, just a grouping of a name of streets. And that's the updated document that's in your packet. And I think it was emailed to you individually. 15.2, it should be dated December 29th. That's the document that will get attached to the ordinance. And that is essentially the only change between what is in your packet materials and attached to the Planning Commission staff report and what will be provided to you tonight for hopefully adoption. There were a few other suggestions on changing this document. We just haven't had time. Most of that was formatting, grouping of projects and whatnot. And so we'll make those changes for the next round, or aim to make them for the next round. With that, I'd also like to let you know that Andy Sontag-Bastrom, who is there tonight, is the keeper of the keys for this document. She's done a fabulous job putting it together and updating it. So if there are questions on it, I will defer to her, and I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Right. Anybody got any questions? Again, this is one that we'll have a public hearing on tonight, and hopefully then passing it as well. So any questions?
Of course I have.
Oh, hey, Sharon.
On page 2 of 3, number 7, would you just explain a little bit about that one?
Are we on the staff report or on the list?
On the staff, you're on the staff report.
On the staff report? Okay.
Yeah, page 2 of 3.
Thank you.
Number 7.
Number 7. Oops, sorry. Go slow or fast, but can't do both. Amendments to the comprehensive plan, land use designation maps. So each of these questions are generic questions in our code and that I utilize to review changes to code as well as the comprehensive plan. So this criteria doesn't apply to the project list because it's talking about the designation map. And that would be your land uses and your zoning map and how they might affect the environment. We're not doing any map changes. We're just looking at projects. That's why it doesn't apply. Does that help, Sharon?
I don't know, I guess when I was reading it, I thought it was saying that the comprehensive plan didn't adversely affect adjacent land uses or surrounding environment, that it was compatible with it. And I wondered what that meant exactly. Because I don't know that it doesn't, how do you know that it doesn't affect those things? Or are you just saying, I don't get it.
Because these are projects and not dealing with that area.
But then why is it here?
Because she's saying that this is a standard list that whenever she does that, something is changed in the comprehensive plan, she goes through this checklist. Some of them won't apply, like this, that one doesn't apply to the projects.
Yeah.
If we were dealing with zoning changes or something else that would come into effect then.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a follow-up on that. So this feels both general and specific, and maybe I have a similar confusion to Sharon's. So like if it was just the bold points, like let's say number 4, the amendments are consistent with requirements of the Growth Management Act and the countywide planning policies, and you're trying to apply that to a specific project and say yes or no, that makes sense to me. But why is the staff finding already there? Is it on a case-by-case basis as it arises, or have we decided that the staff finding in perpetuity is this reason? Or I don't get that part.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. It's almost like it's in advance of what's coming up. So how can you know?
So, well, okay. So what we're really looking at here is number 4 in particular, are amendments to the comprehensive plan. Are they consistent with the Growth Management Act? These are projects that are consistent with our comprehensive plan. So I'm not changing anything in the text or the mapping of the comprehensive plan. If number 4 had read, are these projects consistent with a comprehensive plan? I would have said, this criteria applies, they are consistent, and I could have, dug into individual projects or groups of projects to demonstrate how they are consistent with the already adopted comprehensive plan. But what this criteria, again, it's just general criteria that's adopted in our code, and I use it for all updates. What this one is talking about is the comprehensive plan amendment consistent with the Growth Management Act. Typically, we look at the 14, now 15 goals of the GMA, and then we have adopted countywide planning policies that also just relate to how we're doing planning locally and regionally. Because these are more specific projects, this criteria really doesn't apply to the minutia of this specific project.
When you say these are more specific projects, maybe everyone in the room understands that, but this already. But what specific projects are you talking about?
Well,
This big list. The big list that follows.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Those are all the
Okay,
capital
I get it.
projects that
I
have
get
to
it.
be in our plan.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I've been out of it and I haven't been able to look stuff over, so.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
get
One good way of looking at it is like the comprehensive plan outlines a future road corridor. And then the project list talks about building a road. So, the project list implements the overall plan.
Yeah, I totally get it now. Some of them are tiny and who cares, replace carpets. But some of them are bigger,
Right.
like wastewater treatment update phase 3. It's much bigger.
Yes.
And so in general, did you find that there was no matter, did you have a finding of criterion does not apply for all of this stuff?
Not for all of them, but yeah, for this type of adoption, pretty much all of them.
Yeah, okay, I get it now.
I still have
Like,
questions on the, these I guess would be probably for Andy.
Yeah, it's on the project list.
Yeah, it's on page 1 on the project list, Osborne Rehabilitation and Restoration. Where did the $3 million come from? I'd never heard that before. And what's it for?
I can speak to that. We don't know, we do not yet have a cost estimate. We should know that by April. This is going to be part of my report. But this is for the partial demolition of the Osborne and rehabilitation for a library and community center.
Did we vote on that and I'm somehow missed it?
The city council gave me direction to pursue this project in October.
For a feasibility study.
Yeah, this is giving you, these are placeholders for all those projects that, and it doesn't mean that they're finalized and have been fully, we don't have exact cost estimates. We haven't voted on them, but you basically need to get them into your plan to consider, right? So that's what this document, it gives the whole list of the potential, and some of them we know the cost of, some of them we're already involved with starting them. But this just gets them all out there.
Does it also help you qualify for grants if it's listed?
It does.
Yeah, it does. In some places, you can't
Apply
move forward unless it's in
in
your,
your
right.
capital
Capital
improvement. Okay, that's what I kind of thought.
So the one thing we saw on the picture, there's a cement parking lot on the Osborne site. Are those things we're gonna vote for, or somebody's just doing this?
So council already gave me direction to move forward with that project. We issued.
With that picture?
Well,
That was just a concept.
Right.
Okay.
That wasn't that,
we haven't gotten. details yet.
what you saw on that plan was just something for discussion. That was an idea on paper. And I did explain to you that the parking lot was the number of parking spaces that our current code requires. And that's not necessarily the number of parking spaces that we need to build. We can enter into a shared use agreement with the library, and we can also change our code so that we don't have to have that many spaces.
Well, do we have to add them to that piece of property rather than it being parked? Do we have to, or can we count the parking spaces around the?
We could talk about that.
Okay,
That's down.
okay,
Right.
I'm trying to not think let things move past me. I've got several issues I put for safety, like security fencing, that installation, the security cameras. I think safety has to come first, and I don't understand why we haven't done that a long time ago. We protect our water. And so, is this just a list period? It's not a list of anything in order?
It's not in any particular order. No, it's
Okay.
just a list of projects.
Okay, because the safety things, I think they've gone way too long already.
And our intention is to finish the fence project this year. We were intending to have it constructed this fall and then ran into some complications with our consultant. And so that it's not constructed now, but our goal is for it to be early to mid 2024. For specifically the water, the decant pond and the
Yeah.
well site for our water
See,
system.
that's scary. And that's always scared me, and it's still sitting there. Ever since I was on the council. Okay, for the city pool where it's got the PRSA, the $80,000. Is that for a study or is that for actually putting in shade canopies and a slide and the concrete that is mentioned there. Is that for that?
Are you under park improvements? Sorry, I'm trying.
No, I'm on page 3. I'm down at where it says city pool.
City
Sorry.
pool. Yeah, this is an item that we've had as a carryover for a while. So we left this on for 2024. This was prior to the feasibility study that we did for the pool expansion.
Yeah, and this $80,000 that was earmarked was already used for the feasibility study. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon.
Correct. And just to clarify for Sharon, this is a 6-year planning document only. We do approve it and look at it. Staff is continually looking at it. It's kind of a living document for us. And it's a critical document for the finance department in particular, as I will be looking at all of these and incorporating the future biennium in all of the capital sections of the different funds within the city's budget. So as these move forward, we'll fine tune numbers, and those, the first year, the 24 and 25, and then 26 will also be included. We'll be looking at those 3 in particular as to whether they're going to move forward or not.
Is NAC still being paid to do something? Are they still?
They're done.
They're done.
Done.
So what they did, how much was that total bill?
Is it 90?
Yeah, we're just under 90,000.
20,000 more than was originally.
Yeah, you approved
70.
you approved an additional 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, down on page 4, Icicle Road roundabout the gateway.
Yes.
Are there any plans for, whatever goes on that roundabout? Are any plans?
We don't have any plans to date, so that will be a future project, but
Okay.
we don't have anything slated for
Okay.
that at this
I
time.
just didn't know where that was. And down at the bottom of that page, the ADA inventory, again, that screams at me as a safety issue. And I'm almost done here. Okay, what's it say? On the parking lot improvements, P2.
Mhm.
And it's got drainage, lighting, fencing, signage, blah, blah, blah. Is that regardless as to whether it is sold to the City of Wenatchee Housing Authority?
At this point, that project isn't taking into account any improvements and all that. Again, this is a carryover project that was on our previous CIP,
Okay.
and because we haven't completed it, we're leaving it on here for now. If we sell the property, obviously that would be.
Yeah. So is there there's all this list, is there a list of if we did this or we did that, or it's just like this? And if we did this or that just comes after?
Yeah, and so
Okay.
that's something like, it's in our planning document here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to execute the project if something else happens. That would be at the, city staff decision. And that would obviously be factored in before we fund a project and intend to move forward. We would think about all the other factors. But this is just our kind of master list, if we were to build out a 6-year plan and had all the fun, this is what we would do.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Yep. I have one more question on number 7. Amendments to the comprehensive plan land use designation maps are either consistent, compatible with, do not adversely affect adjacent land uses and surrounding environment. I just would like clarity about why after it says the criterion does not apply, does it also say the proposed amendments are projects which will be reviewed and mitigated at the time of development? So in one hand, it sounds like there's nothing to mitigate. And then on the other hand, it sounds like then we are making a determination of some kind. So could you just clear that one up for me?
And Lilith is gonna have to speak to that one. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
Oh,
with
sure,
that
sure,
report, but-
whoever.
Thank you so much. So what I did there was I put a finding in there that individual projects are addressed and reviewed at the time that they're done. So I wanted to reassure people that there is a review of projects as they advance to actually getting completed. But the fact is, it's not a change to the map. Therefore, the criteria doesn't apply.
Okay, I know too. I mean, maybe everyone gets that. If so, we should.
I don't either.
I don't
No.
quite get it.
I don't like it either.
Okay.
Anything else?
Welcome to our world, you guys.
It usually isn't this high.
Get yourself some sticky tabs.
Get ready.
No, it's not. Something clear.
Let's go ahead. We've just got a few minutes. We've got, vacation request. That's not getting a break. That's, getting rid of some land here. Well,
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council members, this type of item would normally have gone to like the Public Works Committee. But since that's been disbanded for now, I wanted to run it by the city council just quickly. Staff would be recommending, we have a request for a vacation of public right of way. Vacation of public right of way is when that public road or right of way area is reverted back to the surrounding property owners. Generally right down the center of the road or alley, and half of it goes north and half of it goes south in this particular case, where Park Avenue would go to the property owner, half of it to the north and half to the south. Same with the alley. The areas that are shown in red, little cloud, are owned by the church property, both north and south, and staff would, after discussing it with Public Works, would recommend go ahead and vacate those or work through that public process, with the exception of retaining a snow easement and any utility easements now or into the future. You'll see from the map next to that in your packet that this project, particularly the alley request, already has the church building over top of it. So it does make a lot of sense to go ahead, especially with the alley, vacate that. The old schoolhouse has already been demolished. The church started removing gravel without a permit here, the soil and gravel. They are working through that permit process now. So they will finalize that work in 2024. So it's one to make you aware, see if you have any concerns with moving this forward with vacation. Are there any concerns?
I unfortunately didn't get to this one. Usually I go out and look so that I know what I'm looking at. So Prospect Street, Carl, maybe Prospect Street is down here.
Yeah.
That's
and
Ski Hill
that's
Drive.
Ski Hill Drive, and
And
this is the Nazarene and parking lot stuff
They
here.
provide a reason.
And so they just want
Or they
this
have
middle
to?
piece.
Well,
Yeah.
And what's it being used for now? Nothing?
Oh, it's just part of their parking. It's
Okay.
it's.
Okay.
They've
That's got her
essentially.
hand up. Somebody-
Travis asked a question and Ann has a hand up.
Lilith, are you there?
Yes.
Oh,
Did they provide a reason? I mean, or do they have to provide a reason why they're requesting this?
Well, as you can see from the alley, it's already developed with their parking lot and their house. And then the materials do state that they may want to extend their parking lot or put in a playground that would be reviewed with a parking lot permit. If they did a playground, I don't know that it would require a permit. Depends on the type of equipment they put in. But right now they're just removing soil. They haven't said one way or another what they've decided to do with the land if it's vacated, particularly on Park Street.
So is this property that they want on Park Street?
They own both north and
Where's
south.
Park Street?
This is
Okay.
Park Street, and it's a continuation there that's.
Is
They-
this
they
the end
had-
where you can't go anywhere?
Yes,
Right,
Where-
dead end.
Oh,
they
that-
used to have a
okay.
house right here. And that's.
Okay. And
that
so
was
they just
right
want
here
this
that
little
they-
piece here.
They've torn down, yeah.
There's a little
That's-
square. And there's
See, they have
nothing here.
This on this side, they have this on this side, so this would just clean that off, right? This is theirs and this is theirs.
And the city owns this piece of.
Well,
Park
this
Street.
is the street that just dead ends before.
Yeah.
So they're just saying that's not gonna get developed as a street because it goes right to their property.
And the city owns Park Street. I mean, it's part of the city, clear up to here.
Yeah, well, we have that, right. That's what we
Okay.
would vacate because
Okay.
it's not developed. But yeah, that's what they're asking.
So
If
Park
the
Street will
state-
still be a not through street.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the same with this one. They've already built over a lot of it, but it's still legally still a city right of way.
Okay. I'd like to hear what Ann's got.
Thank you. Mine is a curiosity question about the portion at the end of Park Avenue. I'm curious if it has been considered, or if it is a possibility, rather than to vacate this, to the church to turn it into a residential lot, since we are in high need of more housing opportunities.
So you're thinking that the city right away could be converted into an individual lot itself.
That was just
100
my
by
question, if that
50.
had been considered.
No, I'm not that I'm aware of.
Should it be considered?
Big enough for a lot?
Yeah, it'd be a pretty small lot, but the church owns this lot here, and then you see these orange lines. They own
Mhm.
this lot. They own this house. There's another lot here. Then, of course, the one that did have a house on it. So, it is potential that they could do boundary line adjustment after it's vacated for residential lots, but I'm not sure what the church's long-term plans are, other than what they've stated, parking and possible playground.
The use would be limited because we are recommending a snow storage easement, because that's where we store snow now, with Paul Park Avenue.
Would you say that again, Tom?
I said, we would recommend a snow storage easement.
Oh,
A
that's
snow
space.
store.
Yeah, so we could
That the
store-
city
Would keep it.
would keep it and put snow in it.
No, we could still vacate this with put a condition that, a portion of it is reserved for snow storage. But if that's the case, it will restrict some.
Using it.
Yeah.
for a house.
Buildable area.
Yes.
Is that something we should maybe take more time on?
Yeah.
And not
So
vote on it?
what I'm asking you today is if there's any concerns,
That's right.
we'd go through the process, which will require a public hearing. So it'll come back to you and we can talk about it in more detail. But if there's no out and out, hey, we're not gonna do it, we'll just move forward with the public process and continue the discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're
Kick the project tracker.
project tracker, we might have to kick down to the next. Right? So, it gives us a chance for a small break here before we come back for the regular meeting.
We want to try and work on a date for the council retreat, or that's so important. There's one bullet item was confirm,
Future agenda items.
confirm a council retreat date preference. I guess we can wait till, we can kick that down. Discuss that next week.
Yeah. That's a future agenda item. That's where it's listed. So
Okay.
we'll bring it.
All right.
Let's take a break and regroup at 7. I call to order the meeting of the Leavenworth City Council for January 9th. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Sharon, you start us the new year. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Zeke Reister,
Shane Fair.
Travis McMaster.
And
Hesberg.
I think we're going to have Rona join us again by Zoom when she gets on, but she was here earlier. We won't. Clint, we know, asked for an excused absence. He had something, medical things that are up, so we'll consider that. And then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
I would actually like to pull items 9 through 13 from the consent agenda. I think that these are pretty high value items, and while some of our council membership know and understand these projects because we have discussed them, we also have new members on the council that are probably not very familiar with these projects and don't understand why they might be over budget and those sorts of things. So I think that a quick discussion on these items would be helpful.
okay,
I'll second it.
just so that you do know, though, these are just accepting what's already done. This isn't passing any new items or new, we're not extending anything, I mean, you mentioned the cost overrun or whatever, those have already been done. This is just, we lost.
I know, it's just.
I think what Ann's talking about though is that for new members, because I usually didn't see these in the consent agenda before. I mean, what I think the main point is that to bring them up to speed and let them see how this works, that I think it's valuable information and not just pass it, amend the agenda so they can kind of hear how this, what's behind these things, the money. I think that's a valuable thing for new members.
I understand. I'm just saying that there isn't anything that's being really approved. It's being accepted. There's nothing, there's no new work that's going to be done on these. These are accepting projects as complete, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but we can pull them out and go over them. That's fine.
Mayor,
So-
did you want the project tracker to move down to tonight's evening agenda or just address it at the next meeting? The project tracker.
Session.
We'll just do it in another study session.
Okay, sorry for interrupting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take 9 through 13 and have those after. Let's put those just before the public hearing and we can review those. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Moved by Zeke, seconded by Ann. All those in favor, let me see your hands. It passes unanimously. All right, comments from public on items not on the agenda. Anybody have something they want to bring up? Matt, you want to come up and, well, thank you. You can just right there. Okay. I think that now we got an Al, so he'll spot you.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to share 2 items about the museum, what we're working on, but it's important because I think we'll be coming back to ask some questions of some board somewhere about the glockenspiel that's above the Tannenbaum building here, kind of dormant with 2 doors on there. And there's a high level of interest by both the chamber, of which I'm a board member now, and but a neighbor of mine, Tom Phillips, very interested, gung ho to get that thing operating. And he has the opportunity, we think, to work with the building owner, who's very also gung ho about it. And it seems to be a pretty a lot of enthusiasm about that. So I bring that up, and I will be coming to the design review board committee or whatever it's called to make sure the sound that would come out of there and everything else is appropriate. So we don't know what things are other than we know it's Tom is interested in starting that project this spring. He expects it to be done by middle of the summer. So Thank you.
Excellent.
And then, yes, I hope so.
Exciting, Matt.
I remember where.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
Everybody that I have talked to, I have never seen it operate, but it show of hands, does everybody know what the Glockenspiel does or has seen it operate?
Seen the Munich one.
Okay, well, yeah, there's two sets of couples that come out and they're wooden figures that have been carved by Kit Clark back in 1969. And so they are of historical significance to the museum, and we want to make sure that that part of it is done also so that 50 years from now, when they're 100 years old, that they are properly maintained and preserved, but at the same time to bring it to the community so they can enjoy it again. I understand that the Glockenspiel and PD, who many of you may know or will know, said she could hear all the way down the North Road. Of course, probably wouldn't be that loud this time, but she said you could set up your watch by it. That was her experience with it, and I guess people would wait for it to open as far as people visiting. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. So that's just coming up, just an awareness thing. And then the second one is we finished the year on a high attendance record. Of course, December's weather helped because it was so busy. Last year we had the count was just over 12,000 people. No, not 12, it was 10,000. And this year we passed 13,000. So we're very excited about that. Seems to be a lot of enjoyment by that group. And I guess the third thing is I should let you know is that there was you saw the Good Morning America, of course. You saw the CBS Sunday Morning. But the third thing that hasn't been produced yet, but they were just in town this last week, is a film crew. Well, he's by himself, but he was out of PBS, Washington, DC, the flagship station of public broadcasting. They do the Ken Burns documentaries. They came in town and interviewed two individuals because they wanted to get they wanted to get the Native American perspective, and they wanted the Bavarian perspective on things. Somehow they're going to combine the two and make a documentary. And the documentary is not going to be very long. They're looking for small towns that are iconic. Apparently we did the definition and they showed up. So excited about that. Thank you.
Very great. Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Oh, I forgot.
Oh, anybody else, Matt?
Here's another guy. I got a whole bunch of board members following me, but anyway, should have had my notes here, but I wanted to thank the city again for their contributions to funding the museum on just under about $10,000 what we received, which is appreciated greatly, because without these funds and the funds from other sources, we wouldn't be able to operate. And this year we will be open daily, except for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're one of two museums in North Central Washington that are open daily throughout the year. The other one being Nutley. Very cool. Thank you.
Anybody else? Right. I'm seeing none. Our next item is actually a presentation from the Governor's Smart Communities Award, and we've got Valerie Smith here from Department of not here, but I think she would have been here if she could have, but we kind of had this thing called snow that got in the way, I think. But Valerie, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. And yeah, I was planning on being in person, but with the pass closed, it kind of makes that impossible. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Valerie Smith. I'm with the Department of Commerce and Growth Management Services. And I'm here to talk to you about the Governor's Smart Community Awards. On behalf of Governor Jay Inslee and Commerce's Director Mike Fong, I am pleased to present this Governor's Smart Community Awards to the City of Leavenworth. This award highlights the Governor's commitment to preserving and protecting Washington's desirable quality of life, and recognizes the hard work of our communities, residents, and local officials to ensure that we have a vibrant, We have vibrant economic centers, clean environments, equitable access to amenities, and high quality affordable communities. All the attributes that make our great state a wonderful place to live, work, and play. This award highlights planning efforts spanning multiple decades with the goal of recognizing the successful achievement of a jurisdiction's implementation of its long-term community vision through plans, development regulations, and local actions. This is a true example of how the planning process established a vision and how that vision created a place of enduring value. We congratulate you on the continuous implementation of the Bavarian Village, which started locally as Project Life. 60 years ago, this community sought to create a thriving downtown with a sense of place that enhanced existing community assets and generated investments that put the Bavarian Village on the map as a tourist destination without losing or compromising its small town rural feel. The judges panel wanted to celebrate the city's achievements even more, so they awarded the judges merit because this project meets all of the award criteria. It is a model for excellence and outstanding planning efforts that demonstrate what other communities in Washington state and around the country should regard. On behalf of Governor Inslee, thank you for your commitment to excellence in long-range planning, for your implementation of this vision for the project, and your work to guide it into the future. I also have to give a special thank you to the city of staff, officials, and many contributors involved in the project over time. Congratulations.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you very much, Valerie. And we will now move on to our next item, which will be, and I'm going to ask Tom, if you would just give or one of you, either Tom or Andy, to just give us a brief rundown on what those projects were that were final.
I'll defer to Andy on these.
Yeah, I
Okay,
am happy to
Rebecca.
do so. Good evening, glad to be here with you guys and welcome to council, those of you that are new. So I believe there's 5 of the 5 projects on here. And just to set the stage for this, as the mayor mentioned previously, this is the project acceptance. This is the last phase in the project process. So we've already completed construction on all of these. We have paid out the majority of the project with the exception of the retainage that we are required to hold on these projects. So this is just approving the final completion of the project. So jumping into all of these, the first one is the street sweeping waste hauling project acceptance. So historically, the city has stockpiled waste from the city street sweeper out at the cemetery. And so this project removed approximately 50 years worth of street sweeping waste that was saved out there. And that was hauled to the landfill in East Wenatchee. And so this is paying the contractor for the loading and hauling of that. And then all of the disposal fees were paid directly by the city. So this project was higher than the original contract price. So all of these are unit bid contracts. And so what that means is we have an estimated planned quantity. The contractor gives us a unit price, and then that's how we calculate the total for each bid item. So I'll get into the specifics of the other ones, but generally speaking, a lot of these were increase in cost because there was an increase in quantity than the original contract. So with the street sweeping waste or the street sweeping material hauling one, we had an additional 393 tons of waste than what we had originally estimated out there. And these were ballpark estimates. We were looking at it. Tom actually had worked on this before I started, and
Yeah, we're trying to estimate just a giant pile of street
Right.
debris, so.
Actually, 390 tons.
an extra 390 tons.
Whoa, okay,
So this is a very large volume.
Notice the difference if you drive out there.
okay.
Yeah, it looks like we removed a mountain because
Okay.
they literally did.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is the cost overrun on that one. And Mayor, do you want me to run through these one by one and vote, or do you want me to just lump them all together?
We had them as I think we could put these all together. Just go
Okay.
ahead and run through them and then we'll approve them since
Okay.
it's just an acceptance.
Perfect. So the 2022-2023 on-call snow removal project. This was a project that we put into place after what we've been calling Snowmageddon, the big snowstorm in, or what was that, early 2022. And so this was again, a unit bid contract that we had. It was basically hours of equipment, number of times of mobilization, and then this is broken out between standard time, overtime, and double time. Just knowing that this is an on-call contract, we required the contractor to respond within 24 hours. And so legally, they are required to pay their employees based off their work status for that week. So we only used this for one major snow removal effort last year. It was all paid for by the parking fund. And they went through and cleared snow out of the parking lots and off of city streets, specifically in areas that had paid parking. And the cost overrun that we experienced here was because we ended up using more hours than we had in the original contract. Again, it was a unit-based contract, so we just paid them for the appropriate amount of time they used. And in addition, we decided this near the end of the week. We had quite a bit of snow. I think Shannon just mentioned it. I think it was about 125 parking stalls that were blocked with snow. And so later in a week, when contractors were already near the end of their 40 hours, we asked them to come in. We had them work nights. And so we ended up paying for overtime on this contract as well. So that's why that one was over the original contract price. The TIB Ski Hill Drive Sidewalk Improvement Project was the construction of sidewalks on the west side of Ski Hill Drive from US 2 up to Evans Street. And we did bring I brought the two change orders for this project to the first meeting in November. And so the first change order was adding the Evans Street curb ramp. This was a ramp that was non-ADA compliant that we were tying into. We pulled it out separate from the project because we needed to purchase right away. And because we were able to obtain right away in a quick manner, we were able to add it back into the project. And so that portion costs about about $32,000. So that was one change order that increased the contract price. And then our second change order, which was approved for a total of $40,000 plus change. That was for additional improvements that were required to our water services. So as part of that project, we're replacing sidewalk. We know that we have old water services that run under the sidewalk. As part of that project, we had the contractor replace all of our water services. And as they got in to do so, we realized that we had quite a few, well, I think all of them were old services that did not have our typical meter setters that we use. So we had to go in and put meter setters in place of just the old yokes that they had. So that was again another roughly $40,000 in changes. And the remaining around $3,000 in the change between the contract price and the final price was difference between planned quantity and final quantity that was actually completed in the field. So again, with the bid items, I was just changing quantity using the same unit price. The City Hall exterior painting project, we had the outside of City Hall painted and stained this fall. That one actually came in under the original contract price. We have a minor change bid item that we use in there so that if small things come up, we can adjust that during the project. We ended up not having anything come up, so we were able to decrease it by, I think it was $5,000, if I remember off the top of my head, of the minor change that we could use. And
Andy, did that all come out of general fund? The payment for that? Or do you know?
Yeah, that's general fund.
Okay.
sorry, I should have asked if you have questions as I'm running. Are there any questions on any of the projects I've?
Not so far.
Okay. And then the final one is the 2023 asphalt, concrete, and paver patching small works project. This was the citywide, as the name implies, asphalt, concrete, paver patching that we completed throughout the city. And the main difference between the contract price and the final price of the contract was due to additions that we made during construction. So we had completed an initial inventory that showed all the locations where we were planning to have patching completed. And then after we had gone out and marked that up, our crew found other locations that we needed more patching to be completed. It was primarily hot mix asphalt. So asphalt patching in the roadway that we ended up adding. It was either 5, I believe there's 5 locations that we added in addition to the planned quantity. And then we also had some additional curb and gutter that we added. We were placing a catch basin And due to the location, we ended up needing to rip out some curb and gutter, replace that, and replace some asphalt as well. And truthfully, asphalt on this project was really expensive. We were looking at about $300 a square yard. And so the primary driver behind that was we were completing this later in the season. And we knew that, but this was one of those projects where this is kind of patching everything that was done throughout the year before weather hits. And then also from a contractor perspective, this type of project isn't something that they can have high production on. So we get much better bid prices when we have a large quantity, it's all in the same area, they can set their paver and run. And that is not the case with this type of patching project where we have locations throughout the entire city. So we end up getting extremely high bid prices per, this was square yard per ton. On a project like this, when they're jumping around, they're not able to just run with a paver, they are manually putting things in, compacting with, walk behind equipment versus bigger rollers and things that they would use in highway.
So question for Tom, I suppose, is this process of hot patching something annually? I mean, there's holes and you fill them, right? This is an annual thing. You kind of sprinkle this throughout in the master plan of doing the roads and everything else. You're always going to be doing this, right? And so is it just sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less? Do you identify those in July and you're like, all right, these are the trouble spots, can I see it? And then you put this out to bid. Is that how that works?
Yeah, and also too, so a lot of these asphalt patches are water leak repairs. So we had water leaks, I think, up until the bid was actually advertised. So that's why we had those late additions too.
Okay.
So a lot of these are reactionary to water leak repairs, plow damage, third-party damage in the road, that type of thing.
Okay. And this is it's always going to come up like this, right? It seems like, or there's
That's our intention, is to do an annual patching project.
And we have an annual budget for this in our street fund.
Yeah.
And then this one also included, I don't remember the breakdown between what we had from asphalt, total cost for asphalt versus concrete brick pavers. But some of this also was addressing trip and fall claims that we had received in the downtown core that were in the paver sections. So this was just kind of a combination of patching throughout the city. And then sorry, I'm just pulling up my cost assessment breakdown. We also completed a portion in the Freund, the pool parking lot as well. There was a stall that was like a vegetation strip previously. So that was also paved out. So we ended up breaking this project out, a portion, let's see, like $135,000 was paid for out of lodging tax, $157,000, and I'm rounding $1,000. $157,000 is paid by the street fund and $16,000 out of parking. So it was a distribution between our.
And we
funds.
netted a parking spot.
Yeah, we averaged 1.5.
It's all in here.
Yes,
All those
yes,
numbers.
I think it was like 13 feet wide, so, yeah, a little more than a park.
A little more.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to accept these project completions.
Time out.
Okay, time out.
Okay, I thought Ann had wanted to take those off.
We did, we moved.
And then talk about them at
That's what we
another
just
meeting.
did. No, right now. She wanted.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought she meant at another
No,
meeting.
no.
Okay.
Just so that these guys would all hear.
Okay.
what had-
I wondered why we were doing that.
I did too, but that's okay. I would entertain a motion to accept these.
I make a motion to accept the amended items as explained.
Second.
By Zeke, we had a second here by Shane. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Okay, it passes.
I wanna ask what her void vote is. She's here, but her video's not on.
Oh, who's
Rona?
That's because I'm lying on the ground, but I'll turn it on.
Voice.
Okay, just
a
a minute.
a voice from the wilderness.
There I am.
Okay.
I vote, I'm
Yes.
voting yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Rona.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right, we'll move on then, to a public hearing. This is a public hearing on amending the comprehensive plan, but just the capital improvement plan of that plan. Following the public hearing, city council will consider the adoption of ordinance 1687, which would incorporate these improvements. We'll provide a staff report and then we'll take public comments and testimony on it. Because it's a public hearing, we do need you to state a full name and address if you do want to make comments, so it's in the public record. All comments would be addressed to the city council and relevant to the topic. And I would then open this public hearing at 7:29 and ask Willa to give the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. Quite simply, the comprehensive plan and the capital improvement plan outlines projects to implement the goals of the city. And this project, this update has been reviewed by the Planning Commission at a public hearing and is recommended for the city council's adoption with one minor modification of the document, removing a street name or two. With that, I will move it back to the city council for any discussion, public comment, and action. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody in the public wish to make a comment at the public hearing here? I'm not seeing anybody jumping up.
I see no hands up on Zoom.
All right. Then I would close the public hearing at 7:30. And move on then to the ordinance in which the council will have a chance to ask their questions and make their discussion. So I would entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to adopt ordinance 1687, amendment to the comprehensive plans capital improvement plan.
Second.
By Zeke, seconded by. And any other questions?
I think we
Is this the
discussed it pretty
document-
well, but
Yeah, this is that document, that just that list of all the capital plans known and thought of and dreamed of, and getting them down onto our plan.
And we're being proactive by looking ahead to what we know is coming up and assessing whether or not it fits with the comprehensive plan. And staff has determined that everything is of pretty much non-significance in this case. And so now we're just moving ahead and approving it if we feel that's the right choice, correct?
Right. And most of these, like I said, most of these have been on there. This is again, just updating them, adding a few, but most of these have carried over. But it's a process that we have to do every year to just keep it up to date. So it's our best guesses of, and at times we'll add other things. I mean, but this is our best guess at this point of what we're going to be doing in as far as capital improvements for the next 6 years.
Is this the list that Andy went over?
Yeah,
Okay,
this
just want
is
to
the-
make sure that's that. Okay,
All right, any other questions?
I'm sorry, I need to be more clear. Sorry, I'm not there still, but
No.
I feel much more comfortable. So thank you for letting me do this. Is this the conversation that we had when I was there with that long list of projects? And I discussed a couple items. Okay, and it's separate from what we just heard about from Andy.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, I got
Yeah,
it.
those,
Okay, thanks.
those are completed projects that we're just accepting as completed, and this is what's coming up or in process or, yeah.
there it is right there.
Yeah.
And the ones that we
Look at that.
completed were at one time on the
On this,
comprehensive
yes,
plan.
right.
Okay,
Can you see that on the screen, Rona?
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Well, Zeke moved it and seconded. I'm not hearing any other discussion, so all those in favor, let me see your hands. All right, it passes unanimously.
I didn't
Thank you all.
vote.
I don't
Oh,
think that's right.
I see Rona's hand.
Oh, I thought that was her hand there. Isn't that your hand?
I'm sorry. I'm abstaining. I'm not up to
Oh,
speed.
okay.
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Thank you all.
And I'm sorry. It's not too, your camera is not real lit, so I
I know.
Okay, our next item is a motion to elect a mayor pro tempore. That's again, who will fill in and is kind of the head person for the council that keeps you all in line. So we need to, this is an annual election that you do. So I would take at this point nominations for the office of mayor pro tempore.
I would like to nominate Ann Hesberg if she'd like to continue with it, and the vote supported that.
Okay, Sharon has nominated Ann. And we're assuming, Ann, that you would accept that?
I would. If the council would like me to serve another year, I would accept that.
I can second it.
Okay, any other nominations?
I would nominate Nan. I would also nominate Ann.
Well, wait a minute, if we get all of you to nominate, then we don't need to vote. No,
Common discussion.
For the record.
Slam dunk.
I'm not hearing any more nominations, so I will call for a vote. All those in favor of Ann's being the mayor pro tempore for 2024, let me see your hands. Okay, now I see it.
Did you think that the one side of her pillow was her?
Yeah, I did. I think I did. Okay, passes. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, council.
All right, now item 18, we've got an A and a B. We've got Transportation Improvement Board grant agreements that we would be accepting, and we'll call on Andy again.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. As the mayor mentioned, we have 2 fuel tax grant agreements before you tonight. So starting with A, this is a grant agreement for the curb ramp improvements project. We were awarded a grant from the Transportation Improvement Board in the amount of $277,992. This project will replace approximately 28 deficient pedestrian curb ramps throughout the city to make them compliant with current Americans with Disabilities Act ADA compliance. The total project cost, including design and construction, is estimated to be $308,880. So the grant covers 90% of that portion. The city is responsible for a 10% match, putting the city's portion at $30,888. And this will be paid for from the streets fund. And then I'm sorry, I should look, is this one motion or are they separate?
These will be separate.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first one. This is the item A under the 18 for the curb ramp. And I would entertain a motion to approve this.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorizes the mayor to execute the fuel tax grant agreement with the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board for the curb ramp improvements project in the amount of $277,992.
Second.
By Sharon, seconded by Shane. Sorry, he's got a small voice, but I did hear it. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, we're not authorizing the $200,000. We're not responsible for that amount.
No, that's a grant. We're responsible for the match, which was 30.
Okay,
$30,888.
right, okay.
That's what
the way I heard it didn't-
but we have to approve the acceptance of them.
I had a question for Tom or Andy, but so the majority of that is $308,000. I know there's design and installation. I'm just curious about, these are curb ramps, like, why are they so expensive? I mean, like, what do they cost per unit? Do you know what that is, or?
I mean, I can tell you that there's 28 and I could divide that and tell you
Oh.
roughly what they cost. That does include design services, inspection services, and then the actual construction itself. Which I can do really quick calc if you want, but,
These are the ones with the yellow, the corners,
Yeah,
right,
right,
the yellow
right.
perforations and the
Right,
dots.
curb
Oh,
ramps,
those are
yeah.
great.
so it comes out to about $11,000 per curb ramp, including design and construction inspection.
Okay,
Is how that, it's not exactly how that was calculated, but that's what it.
in the
comes out to be.
ballpark.
They're really expensive because they require a lot of labor. It's actually quite time intensive and meticulous how they actually shape those ramps. So there's a lot of requirements on the slope, and some of the specifics of the ramp themselves. And so these are things that they're actually manually forming, and it's a lot of times they're field fit, like we design them, but there's a lot of nuances in the field because we have these pretty strict requirements to make them ADA compliant.
Good enough, that's good.
Yeah.
It just shocked me.
And frankly, concrete's really expensive right now.
And then basically, that's what they are?
Yep, they are, yeah.
They are concrete.
Does this,
Okay.
does this include, like, if you're standing in like the Methodist church with the church behind you and you look across and on the corner there, Sherborne and, what is that? Is it Evans? Does that include that, a ramp there?
Well, so there's plenty of locations that we identified as part of the grant, and the intention here is that once we replace these curb ramps, it would open up a bunch of other streets for an overlay. So with the Americans with Disabilities Act and how that impacts us, we can't overlay a project, so we can't come through and grind a roadway out and repave or lay new asphalt over the top of the existing roadway if the curb ramps aren't ADA compliant. So that process triggers us to have to replace all of these curb ramps.
Okay.
The original intention here, so we met with TIB and kind of walked through with them how they recommend that we make improvements to our transportation system and bring all of our roads up to current day standards. And this was a recommendation from them so that we could strategically pick all of these curb ramps on streets that have utilities that we're not going to replace anytime soon. So we could do these improvements and then go through and overlay or mill and fill the road. With that being said, at that time, we didn't know that they would even offer the scrub seal, which we can touch on in an update. But that wasn't even on the table as an option for us to pursue. And so after they awarded us the scrub seal as part of this project, they're asking that we reconsider the actual locations that we do all these and instead prioritize specific streets that they think would have a higher impact to our pedestrian transportation system. So some of these locations will likely change from what was shown in the original grant, but the cost will still be the same and roughly the number of ramps should still be the same.
And it's still within our plan of redoing some of those streets. It's not gonna change our goals as well, right?
Correct,
Still in
yeah.
line with, okay.
But that being said, part of the reason that they're wanting us to shift is because we will have the scrub seal, which will make some improvements to those roadways in the interim. I.e., we don't need to go in and do a mill and fill right away on those streets. So we could kind of strategically target other ramps and then come back. I'm thinking like, for example, we had some ramps identified on Mill Street and some of the intersecting streets with Mill, West, Meadows, Tumwater, for example. So those probably from a pedestrian improvement standpoint are not our highest because that is not where a majority of our pedestrians are walking. Right. So we probably, I'm not saying those ones specifically, but we may reprioritize those ones to be closer to the commercial core or something differently to kind of strategically implement that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Good explanation.
Did I answer the question? I don't know.
You did. More than once.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, let me see your hands. And I see unanimous. That one passes. And now number B.
Yeah, so B is the similar TIB fuel tax grant agreement. This is for the 2024 street maintenance project. And to be clear, we were awarded 3 totally separate projects with TIB. We only have 2 in front of you here tonight, but the third one I've mentioned is the scrub seal. To be clear, even though the names are very close and similar, that is totally different from this 2024 street maintenance project. So this project here, the total project cost is $100,000. TIB would be covering 90%, $90,000, and the city street fund would be responsible for the remaining $10,000. So this would target streets that are not part of the scrub seal. So these are streets that have other improvements that are necessary, and this includes crack seal, pavement repair, and pre-level. And so as part of this project, it would be separate from the scrub seal, but kind of a coordinated effort in the sense that they'll all take place in 2024. And our goal is that we can complete maintenance on almost all of the streets in our transportation system, either under the scrub seal project or as part of this maintenance project. This is the portion that TIB has awarded us. We originally had a higher ask of about $180,000, but again, we didn't even know that the scrub seal would be a potential option. And so in doing so, we're not sure what the full impact of this $100,000. I haven't actually gone back and looked at how that could break out amongst all of our streets if we can fully, do maintenance on all streets in the system, but that is the goal. And then this would be something we bring back to you, but we would probably intend to supplement this with our city streets fund if need be, so that we could complete crack seal and pavement repair on the rest of the residential streets as necessary. So again, this is just for the $90,000 for the TIB grant though.
Andy, do you have you guys have a map yet in that, so you could give us a map so we would see where the handicap corners are and where the proposed seal, which roads that's going on?
Yeah, so we have different, right now, all I have is the map that shows what we had in our applications, our grant applications. And then I do have an updated map. This wasn't in your packet or anything. I haven't shared this yet, but we do have a map for internal use currently that shows all of the scrub seal streets and then all of the 2024 maintenance streets. But I just haven't publicly shared that yet.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, I appreciate getting that.
Okay.
Not tomorrow, but.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I'm curious, I know, I'm new to this. I imagine that Tom, that you have a plan where this is the end goal. We're gonna have these roads that never need maintenance, right? That's impossible, right? Pipe dream. And we're starting back not too long ago with dirt. We had dirt roads, right? We've had a lot of dirt roads around here, right? With some issues with the drainage, some of the stuff underneath. And so we need to fix that because once we get the roads, we've got those issues. So we've got this perfect road up here around the city. And then you've got, I think that I imagine that each year you're chipping away and kind of catching up, right? Do you see the role that you've taken? And I feel like this is a Leavenworth 2.0 that we're all dealing with now. It's really exciting. I think it's very exciting. But you're catching up each year, right? You're chipping away at those to ultimately get us to a modern city streets. And
so I'm gonna chip in and say the problem was we were fixing roads without fixing the infrastructure.
I know, right.
And now what we want to do is do the whole thing with the infrastructure underneath.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. This is to buy us the time. This is just stealing over the top of with this scrub seal, which is a glorified, it's a little upgraded seal, but just to buy us time to go back and knock them off bit by bit.
Right. Starting with the level 1, 2, 3, whatever they are designated.
Exactly.
But I get that. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the plan. Is that I know it's in here somewhere. Is that a 10-year, 5-year? I mean, is this in my lifetime? I mean, is this?
Yeah.
It's a long-term plan.
It's a long-term plan. I get that.
It's a long-term plan. So we have, and I can bring this back to council, in 2020, whatever year it is, 2023, We had a presentation on our pavement preservation program and our integrated capital improvement program. So those are the two different programs that we're intending to do exactly what you're saying, to bring our streets up to our modern standard. And then under the integrated capital improvement program, which as the mayor indicated, that is replacing all the utilities under the street and then repaving the road as a project. And then in addition to that, we have our pavement preservation program, which will be ongoing maintenance activities. So we don't let things deteriorate to this point that we're having to play catch up, so that we do our annual maintenance on a regular basis and don't need grants like this to actually be able to do that.
Well, and kudos to you guys. I think you guys have found some really great dollars, some federal dollars, I think in the past so many years and even going forward versus the previous administration. That's so, it sounds like you're on a good path, right?
Yeah,
More than better than ever.
just to touch on what Mayor mentioned and also Andy, it's having to address the utilities underneath the roadways, that's kind of the next limiting factor. We do have some areas of town where we could just overlay, that's where we're gonna address those curb ramps, so we do intend to just do some traditional overlays in the near term. But long term, we need to address the underground utilities, water in particular.
Okay.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorizes the mayor to execute fuel tax grant agreement with the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board for the 2024 street maintenance project in the amount of $90,000.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Zeke. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, let me see your hands. All right, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
all.
Thanks, Tom.
Now we move on to reports. And Sharon?
Oh. Night is it? Okay. I'm just gonna briefly go through these. The 18th of December, I attended the Schlein Douglas Health District Board meeting and the Mosquito Board meeting. On the 19th, the United Methodist Community or Church did a community Thanksgiving dinner, and there were more than 80 people there, and it's all free. On the 28th of December, had an Osborne Playground Group Committee, and Quinn, who's the lady that we're dealing with, gave us a 2-dimension for the first time. So it was really interesting. Instead of flat looking at the tops of everything down on the paper, they were up so that we could really take a look and did we really want that one there? So we're still doing some juggling, but our deadline that we hope to make is to have the playground, all the equipment and everything ready to roll before August is over. So we'll see how that goes, but we're getting close. We were just a little group and they're working really hard. Excuse me. On January 1st, the first day of 2024, I had a meeting. It was with the Mosquito Board. And on the 2nd, with the Upper Valley Historical Society Board, and Matt's already done some reporting on that. On the 3rd, backpacking started back up after the schools are back in session. On the 3rd, went to the Planning Commission meeting, and it was the best Planning Commission meeting I've ever been at. They're really working the cottage houses issues. Lilith had some, I'm so visual that it just works better for me if I can see what they're doing and not try to follow with my mind and come up with a picture. So Lilith had some things up we could look at, and it was just really interesting just watching how things go together, how another group that's working on things, how they put it together. So it's a great meeting to go to. The 4th, I went to the chamber board meeting, and as Matt mentioned, Matt is a new board member, chamber board member. And those guys are fun to watch because most of them are kind of young guys and they know their business. They know the business, they know the downtown, how it works, and it's fun to watch them interact with their comments. On the 5th, I met Sue downtown in front of the fest hall so I could learn about a fob door opening system. So more technology, to me, even as simple as that would seem, it's technology. and you have to put the fob in, and it only opens the door they put on the fob, so I can only get in one door on the fest hall. And it's really kind of funny, and you put it in, when you turn it, if, and the lights are green, then you struggle to get the door open, because those doors are not fun to work with. And then once a month, at the beginning of every month, you go to a fob station and you update the fob, so.
Cyber key.
Hybrid keys.
Yeah, so anything new technology scares the crap out of me. So anyway, yesterday, yesterday, we started walking in the fest hall. We had 17 people show up the first day, and tonight, I came and watched Ann, Zeke, Shane, and Travis be sworn in, and that's all she wrote today.
And Rona.
Hey, Rhoda.
And Verona.
Oh, yes.
I didn't put everybody's name on the list. I mean, I didn't put the list really on here. Sorry, Rona.
That's okay.
Ann, do you have a report?
I don't really have anything to report. It's actually been pretty quiet through the holidays as far as committees, except of course Sharon can find committees to attend. But I would like to recognize someone amazing in City Hall tonight. And she received an award from the Wenatchee Valley Business World, 30 under 35, our very own Andy.
And she took off.
I just wanted to. Oh, I didn't see her walk out on the video, but I would still like to recognize her amazingness and the value that she has at the city, and that incredible award that she received.
Yep. We
Well
agree,
said.
we agree. All right, Zeke. you have-
So, on the 6th of January, I attended a event called Dia de los Reyes, the Reyes, the Day of the Kings. It took place down at the Red Barn. It was sponsored by the Wenatchee River Institute and by the Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice and the Immigration Race Justice Leavenworth and Sarabi's Landscaping and Faith Lutheran Church. And what this was is there's about 100 people there, and they served pozole and tamales made by the volunteers. It recognized a widespread gift-giving celebration in Mexico. It was the first of its kind in this town. Its intention was to bring together two cultures, the Latinos and the whites, to see our similarities and learn something about each other. It was an excellent, it was just the first, there was lots of dancing and singing events. It was the first of its kind, and it was well worth attending. So I was really thrilled to be part of that. And then I want to say something about the response I've gotten about the Adventure Park. As a city and staff and a council and the Leavenworth Chamber, especially with the reports you've gotten tonight about the Governor's Award for what a smart community is, I feel strongly that it's critical that we recognize the impact of 3 million visitors on our neighborhoods. It isn't just during Christmas lighting in December. It extends throughout the year. And from my perspective of a longtime resident, we need to dial this down, get our parking garages built, find out strategies and solutions to diminish the impact on our residential neighborhoods. The reality is that tourism dollars may be the lifeblood of our city finances, but we have got to protect the quality of life in our residential neighborhoods. At this time, I don't have any answers, but I firmly believe we need to make a start in initiating strategies, and we need to look for solutions, because 3 million visitors on a town that's barely over 2,000 people is out of balance, and it's affecting everybody. So that's my comment.
Amen.
And Shane, you have anything? I know you don't have reports.
I don't have any
but-
reports, but I would like to share that I'm very excited to be on city council and working with all of you.
Yeah, good. Welcome.
Great to have
Yep,
you.
It's good to have you. How about Travis?
I echo his sentiments. Yeah, I don't have anything to report, but
Yeah.
I am happy to be here. And like I said, Leavenworth 2.0, this is kind of an exciting time, I think, and I told Sharon when we visited at your house this summer that the Navy SEALs have a saying that goes, well, they got a lot of sayings, but a good one is every organization needs a dinosaur. And I wasn't calling her old, but she's the legacy.
He was
We have.
calling me old.
I wasn't calling you old. The knowledge.
I've been crying.
The knowledge, yeah, crying, I doubt it. The knowledge that you have and and you've lived here your whole life is really amazing in this town. And the things that you say and the things that you say, having been here so long, are progressive, and it's really refreshing. I mean, everything is through a lens of someone who's lived here for a long time that cares about this town, and with an open mind and open heart. I feel like this is really going to be a great 4 years for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Rona, any comments, or I know you don't have a report either, but you want to?
Well, I kind of have a report because a lot of people in the community reached out to me about the Leavenworth Adventure Park. And what I've been trying to do in the several weeks before being sworn in is help people understand the communication process. What's public record, what will go on file, what will end up in a council packet, if they make a comment, how to make it, how to identify themselves, how to talk about why it matters to them, etc. So actually, I spent about a week working with citizens groups and citizens, and I understand a lot of letters came in, and a number of times they CC'd me. So I saw how they were writing some, I hope, really well thought out comments. So I have been engaged in that, and that idea of transparency and communication is super important to me. And aside from that, I also am happy to be serving on the council. I appreciate the people that supported me. And I'm sorry I had to lie down for the second half, but I'm glad that I was there for the study session. I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Great. Thank you. And again, with all the holidays and stuff, I don't have a lot to report, although I will say that as you all know, the state legislators are in session as of yesterday and are hitting it fast and furious. And I've been in contact with our lobbyist over there that's working for us on several issues around the housing thing. So it's going to move quickly, but it's exciting times, and we hope to bring some positive results out of the session. One thing we're looking at is engaging with WSU and their municipal research outfit to do a statewide study of tourism on it and the impacts that it has on the tourism communities and specifically on their housing. So we want to get statewide data instead of just Leavenworth being the only squeaky wheel. So we're really hopeful. We actually have Representative Gaynor is going to sponsor that as a proviso for the budget, a budget proviso rather than a bill, but that would give WSU some funding to go ahead and do that, and would give us, again, a little bit more hard data as we move forward to try to find solutions. And part of it will be to look at all of what could potentially be solutions to address those housing issues as well. So anyway, there'll be more to come. It's a short session, so it'll go quick. But that's it for me. And Selby.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In mid-December, a request for qualifications was issued for consultants to bring the Osborne project to the next level of feasibility. Again, this is the project would include a partial demolition of the Osborne to take it down from 25,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet, fully renovate it, move the library over there so that City Hall can expand to where the library is, and to add some community center space. a quarter-page display ad in the Echo ran in advance of the deadline. So we're trying to get the word out about this project. The city received 4 statements of qualifications by the deadline of Friday. Selection committee of city and NCW library staff reviewed and scored the statements this afternoon, and interviews are being arranged for next week. I was alerted by NCW Libraries that there is a Department of Commerce grant for library construction projects that is due on April 5th. This grant program offers up to $2 million for library construction, and I've spoken to the person who's running this grant, and renovation of existing buildings for library use is an allowable use, and she's very excited about this project and is strongly encouraging the city to apply. It does require a 50% match. We hope to get solid cost estimates for the partial demolition of the building, hazardous materials, abatement, and a full renovation of the library and common areas of the project in time for the grant deadline. And we're hoping to bring a contract for your approval potentially as soon as the next meeting. We are also creating a small steering committee for this project comprised of city and library staff and community members. So more on this at your next meeting. On January 3rd, Andrea and I provided an orientation for the newest city council members. It's the first time either of us have done an orientation for new council members. We went over a lot of material that we covered at the May retreat to bring them all up to speed. And the next step of their orientation is meetings with department heads and a tour of city facilities. The street sweeper naming contest was a hoot, and I hope you all participated. If not by offering up suggestions, then voting for your top choice. If you haven't heard already, the new street sweeper will be named Woody Broomsba. That is a nod to our Woody Goomsba, which is a nutcracker statue that adorns Front Street. Well done. And that suggestion was from R. Kelly, our new facilities director. So we're having a decal made up. I'm working with the Department of Ecology to put the final touches on a grant agreement for the $200,000 integrated planning grant to conduct due diligence at the car wash property, which I hope to have on your next meeting for approval. We have received 6 applications for our second parking enforcement officer, and interviews are taking place this week. And Maggie Bowles will be returning to the city as our senior planner starting next Tuesday. So we are all very excited to have her back, and I want to thank you, council, for approving the MOU with the Teamsters in November. That's what allowed us to bring her back.
All right, thank you. And I don't think, Chantel, are you still there?
Chantel is.
Yeah, sorry, my mouse was hidden under my keyboard. I just have a quick report for the council. I want to give you a heads up for the next meeting. For those of you who are new and aren't familiar quite yet with the process, we do have a finance packet report every month, and I typically provide that document at your second meeting in each month. With closure of December, 2023, it will be a late item coming to you. You will not get it in your packet. Due to a state law requirement of holding the books open until the 20th, we will be doing a final check run on the 19th. So 2 items on your agenda next meeting will identify that the documents will be provided at that meeting. And that will include your 2023 claims as well as the finance packet itself. Other than that, I'm looking forward to meeting with our new council members. I know we're working on scheduling a one-on-one meeting, so we'll be talking all about city finances, and I'll be answering any specific questions you have. If you are passionate about finance, I would definitely recommend that you request getting on the finance committee. We will be meeting later this year. The process starts almost in April-ish, and it starts with the staff in June, but then I'll get into meetings with the finance committee itself throughout the summer and into the fall.
Great. Thank you. You have any more?
Thank you. No, I'm done.
Bella?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. We are very excited to have Maggie Bowles back next week. She will be taking items to hearing in February. So just right around the corner, we'll have a hearing with 2 new bed and breakfast requests, and then also a, oh, it just slipped my mind. That can't happen. A variance for a sign. So if you haven't been to a hearing examiner meeting, I'm always encouraging you to attend. We're starting the year off with a bang, another set of meetings with the hearing examiner. And as previously mentioned, of course, the Adventure Park has made a request to amend their conditional use permit. We have not set the hearing date for that. I did provide the applicant with the first round of comments, which were around 190 comments. And we will be waiting for the applicant to either respond or let us know if they're not going to be responding, but I think they will be. And then we'll set the hearing date. I would anticipate March or April for that hearing. So you'll have other opportunities to visit the hearing examiner if the upcoming one doesn't work. In the meantime, we've moved some office space around, and we're currently full without moving some items into another storage area. We don't have any room to move people. So something to keep in mind. I know Selby's been making you aware of how tight our quarters are, but that's just a FYI. Otherwise, I appreciate the city council. Feel free to call with questions, and I'm available to chat at any time on projects that are going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Flory. Good evening. Welcome, new council members. Look forward to working with you. Yeah, 2 updates tonight. First, please let me know if you have any questions pertaining to the December 2023 Public Works reports found under tab 19. I want to acknowledge on the Public Works leadership team for their hard work in refining our department goals and setting objectives for 2024, a draft of which is provided as an exhibit to, attachment to the 2023 December monthly report. I also want to acknowledge the Public Works team as a whole for supporting the 5 weekends of the Village of Lights Christmas Town Festival. I want to note that we had difficulties keeping up with solid waste demands downtown due to the number of visitors. Difficulties were primarily associated with the street cans, particularly midweek. So we intentionally staff up on weekends. But what a surprise to us was just the midweek numbers, as the chamber's numbers show, that we were not anticipating that. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball there when we were trying to clean up downtown midweek. We adapted best we could. We had folks hold over, but 5 weeks of overtime for a lot of these folks is just too much. It's just they get burned, staff gets burned out. So on that note, we are continuing to pursue the big belly options, the cans, those self-compacting trash receptacles. We're going to pursue that in earnest in 2024 and see if we can work out at least a pilot program. I want to acknowledge DOT, Chelan County Fire District 3, Cascade Medical Center, Chamber, State Patrol, Sheriff's Office, and Chelan County Emergency Management, along with other city staff, for their support, both in planning and providing crucial after-action feedback for the Village of Lights Christmas Town event. We'll be facilitating an after-action review between the city and the Chamber next week, just to kind of further that relationship and just see what we can do better in terms of managing trash midweek, for example, and maybe making some modifications operationally. Shout out to John Shans, our Parks Division Supervisor. He stepped out of his comfort zone and applied for a DNR Community Forest Assistance Grant for the development of a tree management plan associated with our park system. That was due yesterday, so we don't know if we get the grant yet or not, but just I want to acknowledge that. That's definitely John going above and beyond. Also shout out to Rob McCurdy for continuing to step up when Rick Evans is out on medical leave. We expect Rick back in the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, Rob's doing a fantastic job. I do want a second Councilmember Hesberg's shout out to Andy regarding her 30 under 35. And I just want to thank Selby for reaching out to city staff and taking the lead on and for nomination recommendations. So, Councilmember Waters mentioned this, but Osborne Playground update. The playground committee has been working hard. We had our 3rd rendition that we reviewed, and next steps with that is we made contact with the Cascade School District, and we're going to start engaging the students and to start that feedback process with the school on upgrade options. I'm going to conclude with a couple project updates. So the Front Street restrooms upgrade is going to be a pretty big disruption downtown. We anticipate that project going out to add first quarter of 24. In the meantime, we are working with Art in the Park to facilitate parking and contractor staging and material staging, because that's going to be a big disruption downtown. So I just want to give the council and the community a heads up that that project will be taking place this year, and we are considering, the impacts, and we'll be pushing out outreach as soon as we get a construction schedule. And then lastly, this was talked about a little bit this evening, but our scrub seal is moving forward. That's that $1.7 million project that's primarily funded by the Transportation Improvement Board. Our bid advertisement target goal is February, so next month. So Brain Osborne is pushing hard on that to get that advertisement out. And that tight timeline is driven by the TIB, because they want the best bid prices that we can get. So there'll be more updates, and Councilmember Waters, to your point, there'll be extensive outreach as well once we get a clearer picture on a construction timeline. That concludes my report. Thank you.
I have two questions. On objective 1.6.
Oh, yeah.
Make as-built available, locate as-built. What are as-built?
Good question. So as-built are also referred to as record drawings. So when you design a construction project, most of the time, 99% of the time, nothing is constructed as designed. So there's field changes. So what the as-built or record drawings are is they actually depict what was actually constructed or as built. So we acquire those after a construction project. This is normal, but historically, and this is not just our agency, other agencies are similar, but historically, following up with consultants and contractors to get as-built, sometimes it's not the top priority because everyone's really excited about the project being done, but it's a vital piece of information that we need to have records of. And a lot of times we have as-built, but they're just kind of in a file stashed somewhere. So our goal is to locate them and digitize them so they're readily available.
Okay, and my last question, objective 3.8, identify recycle center LOS and clarify expectations.
Oh, LOS is level of service.
Okay.
So just to identify recycle center level of service and then clarify expectations. So we currently contract with Waste Loop to manage the recycle center, and some of these are in the weeds operationally, but our goal is just to clarify Waste Loop's role versus the city's role in terms of support.
Okay, I've been going to the recycle center for several years, and I have some concerns. I'll just give you two examples. There was a lady who came, and it's up to the recycle people to say, we can't take those, like the trays that come from, or the little package things that come from getting a hamburger or whatever. And there was actually a lady who was that was mentioned to her that she couldn't do that, and she threw them in anyway. Also, there was a man that hugely verbally abused one of the folks, and that troubles me. I don't know what they can do except just
call Rivercom, call sheriff's deputies.
Okay, well, I don't know that they know all that.
Okay, that's good feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, did the designer, I believe it's the design review board, finalize the plans for the bathroom? It sounds like it's been finalized.
Yes, so they gave us, it's my understanding, so Andy presented that to the DRB and they gave us a list of conditional approvals. So it doesn't necessarily have to go back to the DRB, but as long as we adhere to those conditions.
Because there was some question about, right, a family or a non-gender part of that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the path forward there is we're going to have a third gender neutral restroom facility.
Okay.
That's moving forward.
All right.
A family restroom.
But it doesn't impede the storage. That was the thing too, right? That center part was like for storage that you guys use. That's still, you guys will still have storage space?
Yes, that's
in your
correct.
mechanical stuff. Okay. Good.
All right, well, that concludes. I just do want to point out on your information item for the community engagement night at the end of the month that I hope you can attend. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sharon moved,
Second.
Zeke second, all in favor, let me see your hands. We are adjourned.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
So that.